Ribbit? Hey guys, it's Froggy Poker, back again. I just finished up my 5th week of studying and playing poker every day, and I'm here to report my results. So yeah, let's start out with my studying. So with my studying, I set out to learn about outs and equity, flush draws, straight draws, overcards, like how to count them and what percentage of a chance I have of winning if I hit those cards. And then I also set out to learn about pot odds, both topics I was very confused about, and I want to learn more about them. So I guess let's start about outs. So I learned about outs, and in terms of outs, there seems to be a rule called the 4-2 rule, where if you're on the flop and you have the amount of outs that you have, so let's say you're on a flush draw, you have 9 outs, and if you're on the flop, you multiply by 4, which would give you 36, and that's roughly the equity you have. And if you were on the turn and you were trying to count your equity, it would be times 2. And so 9 times 2, 18, and that's your percentage of winning the pot, or your equity. And so that is the 4-2 rule and roughly how to count your equity. That was very helpful for me. I've heard of that rule loosely before, I've heard it thrown around on the internet, but I didn't really understand it. So definitely helps and definitely makes it a lot easier to calculate these things. I also just learned about counting your outs. So you can have a flush draw and a straight draw, an open-ended straight draw. I always thought that was 17 outs because it's a straight draw, open-ended, so that's 8. And then it's a flush draw, which is 9. So 9 plus 8 should be 17, right? But then it turns out that there's 2 cards that share that would do the same thing for you. So one of the cards that would give you the straight would also give you the flush. So you have to you're double counting it. So you'd actually only have 15 outs there. So stuff like that was helpful. Also overcards, if you just have 2 overcards on the flop, that's 6 outs. Things like this really helped. And then also in addition to that, separately, I also just looked at percentages in terms of poker. So hitting things, for example, what is the percentage you just hit a flop? You get a pair or anything on the board. And if you had to ask me before, I would say it's about 45, 55%. Turns out it's 30%, which was shocking to me, but also very helpful. Because when I play live poker and I'm I can't hit anything, it makes a lot more sense. You have low odds of hitting things. So that's pretty useful. Definitely helped just to shape my understanding of probabilities in this game. So it was a nice little exercise that I did. And then in terms of pot odds, I definitely watched some videos that taught me the concept. Still a little bit hazy in my mind, but I did a lot of problems calculating pot odds, and so I feel a lot better at doing it. And I also played some live poker this week, and I found myself calculating pot odds a couple times, which was very useful. So I think in terms of studying, this week has gone great because of the 2 topics that I set out to learn. I think I learned exactly what I set out to do, so I'm pretty happy with that. I guess the only thing I would say about those things is I'm not at the point where I'm using them that they change my game drastically. I'm not calculating pot odds and then that's drastically changing my decisions. I'm just able to somewhat do it now, which is a good start. Hopefully, as I keep getting better, I'll actually be able to use these things to inform my decisions better. But I am pretty happy with just being able to do it, which is good enough for me, and is what I set out to do. And then let's talk about play. So for play this week, let's talk about online poker. Right. So first with online poker, I played 642 hands for this last week. I lost $578, which is 289 big blinds, and I played for 2 hours and 46 minutes. So those are my stats for this week. Honestly, nothing really important to mention for me because I feel like I haven't changed my play too much from the week before. I didn't really learn anything that changed anything. Like I said, pot odds and counting my outs, while they were useful to know how to do, I don't think it changed my play at all. So this is kind of just more of the same. But it's just good to get the reps in, and I just like playing, so it's been nice. I think I just had a couple bad hands, and I'm going to share them later on in this video. But overall, it's kind of hard to go based on these. It's so little hands, and I definitely know I'm still losing players, so it's not much value in getting hung up on any results here. I'm really just trying to improve. It's just good to play. I will say also, in terms of my play, I haven't changed anything, as I mentioned. The only thing I did change is on the turn, I've been overbetting more, and I notice I get more folds, which makes sense because I'm betting harder on the turn, I'm getting more folds. But before I was only betting 50% pot, so the fact that I'm overbetting is such a drastic change in my bet sizing. But I found this to be useful in terms of getting a fold equity, and that actually is going to lead into what I want to do for next week. But let's first talk about the hands. All right, so let's look at some hands. All right, so I have Ace 10 offsuit. In the hijack, it's five-handed, so I think you're supposed to essentially treat it as under the gun folded. And this is right in my pre-flop range, so I bet. It folds to big blind, who min clicks it back. So I think I play this hand probably poorly if I'm trying to be objective about it, but I just had this read on this player that I think he was just kind of a bad player and he was doing this with like weird hands, and I didn't really believe him, so I decided to just call. And I mean, I was always going to call here anyway. I have Ace 10 offsuit, but you'll see as the hand plays out why I kind of played that way. So the board comes out 5, 7, 8 with two hearts, and he bets pot into me. And I think normally in live I would fold because this normally indicates they have something on this board. But I'm just trying to think like what he would click back with when I'm on the hijack, right? So I should have a strong range. I don't think he has sevens and eights too much in his range. So what is he betting here? I'm just like, this doesn't seem proper. And if you had something like an overpair, like aces, kings, queens, jacks, I'm assuming he would have three bet me harder. So I'm like, I just couldn't understand what this was. And I also just had a read on this player that he was kind of playing silly. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I'll call. This seems kind of like nonsensical. Turn comes a 10, so I have top pair, top kicker. Great for me. So he bets into me, and I re-raise him. I'm really happy and proud of this play. I find that recently, I've been noticing that I play pretty passive, I think. So I'll only bet if I have it, and I'll kind of check if I don't. And I won't ever check raise people. I notice I don't re-raise people at all. I don't do this in live. I don't do this in online. And one thing I'm trying to get better at is being more aggressive, because aggression wins. It's better to be the aggressive side in poker. And the two things I think I'm changing in this week of play that I kind of just did without studying, I just found myself doing it because I wanted to, which I think actually helped my game a lot, is turn over betting, but also re-raising. So I've been doing those two things a little bit more, and I think it actually is helping my game. It might not be put in the right spots that I'm doing it, but I'm just glad I'm doing it because I think my opponents know that I don't do it, which allows them to run me over. So it's good that I have this in my arsenal. So I re-raise, he calls. River comes the 6 of hearts, and he goes all in against me. Now, if I'm being objective and I'm really looking at this, like right now, from my perspective, without like the read that I had on him, this is probably a fold. Any 4, any 9 gets there, any 2 hearts get there. There's a lot of hands that beat me here, and I'm almost basically bluff catching at this point. And I'm thinking also this is probably just a good bet on his part. And I probably just wasn't thinking when I was playing this, but just something in me was like, this guy is like playing crazy. I don't believe him. He has nonsense. And so that's why I chose to call. There's probably something to be said about just having a read on a player and like calling it, even though like against most players this is a fold. And he turns out to have 7 king of hearts, which I guess, I mean, that's kind of a silly way to play the hand. I guess from his perspective, he's probably angry that I called him with the hand that I have, just top pair, when he was repping a lot on that board, but I just didn't believe him. But I think given my read on the player, this was probably a good play. But, either way, it's just fun to finally show a hand where I win, so there you go. All right, moving on to the next hand. So for this hand, this is one of those hands that make me question if I'm playing this game correctly at all, because I found that I struggle to make disciplined folds, and I don't know if what I did in this hand was the correct play. So let's look at the hand. So the first context of this hand is there's only 3 people on the table, so we're playing pretty short-handed here. I'm in the big blind. Dealer folds, small blind raises, and I call with pocket 2s. And flop comes out 2, 8, 3, 2 hearts, and I flop bottom set. So great for me. I'm super happy. Villain checks, and I bet 2/3 pot. This is something that I'm unfamiliar. I don't know if this is a good bet size. I normally just range bet here, but I feel like I got bottom set. I should probably bet a little bit harder. Villain calls. Turn comes 4 of clubs. So now there's 2 flush draws out there, and 5, 6, and ace 5 get there. But I mean, that's basically all that does. So villain checks to me again, and like I said, I've been more aggressive on turn, so now I overbet. And villain re-raises me. And at this point, I'm confused, because what hand beats me here? Ace 5, 5, 6, 3s, 4s, 8s, and those are the hands. And then what is doing this? I'm thinking any flush draw I think would do this. I think like to scare me off whatever hand I have, I guess, and to get more value if they hit the flush is my assumption. Maybe not a great one. maybe 2 pair hands, maybe like ace-8 would maybe do this. Maybe they thought that I was like bluffing on the flop and they're trying to punish me. Maybe they think I'm going for the flush draw, and so they have like an 8 in their hand. So I don't know. I have to call here. I have bottom set, so I call. Oh, actually, I did not call. I shove it in. I guess that my reasoning for this was, at this point, if I call this, I'm going to have like a small bit behind, and I might as well get any amount of fold equity that I'm going to have here and just shove, because this is the best my hand's going to be. And I don't want to give him like a price to get a flush draw if that's what he's doing. So I just shove. He snaps off. River comes out of Jack of Diamonds, which should be a brick, and villain turns over ace-5 of clubs. So this is just one of those hands. I don't really know if I misplay this. I mean, ace-5, that's like, how many combos of ace-5 are there here? There's 16, and then 5-6. I don't think he's betting 5-6. And so ace-5 is really the only combos there. I don't know. Like, I have bottom set. Am I really supposed to fold that to the like possibility that he has ace-5? Because I also think there's a lot of hands he could have been betting there. I may have misplayed it because maybe I shouldn't have re-raised his raise. I'm not sure why I misplayed this. Maybe this is just a cooler. I'm perfectly happy. I'm happy when hands are just coolers, like, because whatever, that's poker. But when I misplay a hand is when it bothers me, because I know I could have done better. So I'm not sure what I could have done here to get away from this hand. I feel like I played it pretty well. I'm not sure. But, you know, that's another great hand. Let's move on to the next one. All right, last notable hand of the week. So it's another 3-handed table. Different table, actually, on a different day. But you seem to get into those a lot this week. I'm in the small blind with ace-king offsuit. That's a good hand. Button raises, I'm going to 3-bet. The big blind completes. The big blind calls, and the button folds. So the flop comes out 8-4-2 rainbow. I go for a range bet. I think that's a proper play here because I didn't hit anything. But I'm betting my range against his range. 1/3 is the size for that, is what people do. So I think that's a good play. And then he shoves all in. I don't think this player is that great from like my memory of him. I guess I only really have 3 results from him. I mean 3 like hands from him. I kind of swore I had more, but I don't know. It just seems like a silly play. I'm like, what do you have here? Because it's like you're calling a 3-bet. So what do you have? Like 2s, 4s, 8s, maybe ace-8, ace-4, ace-2 suited. Like what else is calling a 3-bet here? And enough so that you're shoving on me. Like just it has to be like sets. Because I mean, if you have 2 pair here, that's crazy that you're completing, right? So I was just so confused. I'm like, this board is so dry. It shouldn't connect with either of us because it's a 3-bet pot. Like, well, what are you doing this with? And so I think it was partly frustration and partly like this guy is just crazy bluffing here and he doesn't like know that he's bluffing. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I was just like, this doesn't make any sense from my perspective. Maybe it makes perfect sense and I've just not gone to the poker level yet. But for me right now, I'm like, this doesn't make sense, right? So I call, probably falsely so. I probably should just fold and wait for a better spot. But this seemed really silly to me. So I call, I'm like, I don't know. This just doesn't make sense. The run out goes 6-7 hearts. It's kind of irrelevant. Doesn't connect with any of us. It shouldn't. And he flips over queen 2 offsuit. Yep, he called a 3-bet and got bottom pair with an all right kicker and shoved it. Okay. So, you know, I think it's like in these moments that it's easy to go like, oh, that player did this. I'm not normally one of those people who like get mad at people playing like in a way that I don't agree with. I have no problem with that. It's more so I'm just trying to think like, what can I do to have like capitalized on this poor play? And I think realistically, I fell probably right into his silly play because all I had to do was just fold, and if I had like a better hand on the board, I could have called and just punished him. But instead, I chose to call with a bad hand because I'm drawing to 6 outs. So probably a misplay on my part, a weird play on his, but it was kind of on me to not call there, I think. But yeah, I guess that's an example of me getting out of line. And a funny hand to end it off with. So those were a couple of my hands from online poker. That's pretty much all the notable ones. The rest were just small pots, things like that. Yeah, so online poker's been pretty good. And live poker. So I did talk about last week about not wanting to play on the weekdays and just play Friday, Saturday for that week because for the previous week I was playing like every single day was kind of like taking up my life, to be honest. It was way too many hours. Like I was putting about 6-7 hour sessions every day. It was a lot. This time around, I did break what I said. I said only Friday, Saturday, and I think I played at least 2 weekdays, maybe 3. But I didn't play all 5 days, which is an improvement for the previous week. I definitely did break what I was going to say, and that wasn't great. But, you know, it's better than nothing. And I definitely played less hours too, like per session. So that was also a very positive thing. In terms of live poker sessions, though, nothing notable. I actually lost pretty much all my buy-ins. I think I went in, probably lost 900, maybe 1,000. I lost a lot of buy-ins. So definitely goes to show that last week was more of a sun run. Or maybe this is just more bad variance. I'm pretty confident I'm still a losing player, so I think it's more just par for the course. I'm fine with it. Like it's good to get live poker like sessions in just to get more experience. I definitely think I'm getting better, so I do think like it's not bad. Like it's good to experience the loss so that it's not weird to me. Like I think it's helping me in a lot of ways, and so I'm not mad at it at all. I don't have any problem with like losing my money. That being said, I don't think there's any more value in going to live poker anytime soon. The last couple sessions I was realizing I was like, I'm not enjoying myself too much because I'm a losing player and I just have a lot of leaks and I'm not fixing them, and it's not beneficial for me to be here anymore because originally I was getting a lot of benefit just from the experience of it, seeing certain hands, seeing how people play. And I think I really kind of get how people play in live poker and I understand the flow of things pretty well now. I probably put in like 100 hours in these last 2 weeks. So I think I get a lot more, and I'm very happy for the experience. But I think I'm done. I'm not going to get any more value out of continuing to play. I think I just need to hunker down and keep studying and come back when I'm a little bit better. And so I'm not going to try to make some big sweeping promise to myself, like I'm not going to go for a month or anything, because I don't think I'm going to adhere to that. But I will say for this next week, I'm not going to go at all. I'm not going to go for any of the days. I'm just going to stay focused on studying and stay focused on playing online poker and just focus on my game. Because live poker at this point is not a positive for me. It was before, so I'm perfectly happy with my sessions, but now I think I need to take a break. So for this week, for this next week, I'm going to take a break. And that's going to be what I'm going to do. So let's moving on to the final portion where I just talk about what I'm going to do for studying and playing poker next week. So I'm not going to change anything in terms of my studying and playing time. I think this is the first week where I haven't changed anything, and I think this is a good week to not change anything. I'm pretty happy with my scheduling. 15 minutes of studying and then 15 minutes of playing 2 tabled. I think that's pretty great. If I want to play more, I can, but I don't need to have the pressure. If I want to study more, I can, but I don't need to feel the pressure. I think 30 minutes is like a good portion of time that I'm going to gain something out of it, and it's not too little that I won't get anything, but it's not too much that the barrier of like entry might get too high one day. And I hopefully will push it up more in the future, but for right now I'm actually pretty content with where it's at, and I think I'm getting value out of it, so I don't see a point in changing it. In terms of studying, like what I want to study. So in terms of study, first of all, I was studying a course called From the Ground Up by Peter Clark in the first week, and then I mentioned that I want to go through it a second and a third time, and that was my plan. And then I kind of veered off, and I've just been watching videos and focusing on topics that I care about. But I've always in my head have been holding myself to finishing up that second run through of the course. What I want to say is I'm actually going to relinquish that requirement that I set in my head. And I'm going to say I don't have to do that course a second time. Not that there's anything wrong with the course, but I'm realizing that going through this course a second time I don't think would gain me value because it's not what I want to do, and I'm noticing I'm pushing away from it. I think it'd be better if I just focus on the spots in the game that are bothering me specifically. Like before it was pre-flop, I just didn't get it, so I studied it more. Now I think I'm better. Last week it was pot odds and like outs, and now I feel like I'm better because I know that. And for this week, I want to learn how to play draw hands. When I have a flush draw or an open and a straight draw, I don't understand how to play it on the flop. I'm always thinking you're supposed to price it that you get a good price, but I'm realizing now some people say you're supposed to play it aggressively. So I don't really know. And so that's what I want to learn this week. So in context of that course, I think I don't think I'm going to follow a course anytime soon now. I think what I'm just going to focus on going forward is just I have a thought about something because I'm playing the game a lot. And how do I play the spot? It's like, well, I'm just going to look up that spot. And I think that's how I'm going to learn going forward until I feel ready to go through another course again, whether it be from the ground up or some new one. So that's the plan. And then in terms of studying, I want to study how to play flush draws, how to play straight draws, any kind of draw type hand. And I also want to learn bet sizing. I think there's about 2 bet sizes that everybody plays on each street, and I don't know them, and so it seems like a simple thing to look up, but I just want to pick bet sizing and adhere to them. That way I have a consistent way to size things, and I don't have to overthink it, and that way I can also see how people react to bet sizing and learn how to play my game around them. So I want to learn bet sizing, and I want to learn how to play draw type hands. Those are the 2 things that I'm going to mainly focus on this next week. And if I have extra time, I like to learn how to play bottom pair, top pair, middle pair, and like not hitting anything on the flop. So like all those kind of hands, like if you hit a pair, or if you don't hit anything on the board. I also want to learn how to play those hands. But if I don't get to it, I'll get to it next week. And then, yeah, so I'm pretty happy with everything that's gone on this week. It's been a pretty normal week. I have what I want to do for next week. And so, yeah, pretty happy with everything. I'll report back to you guys next week. But that's all for me. This is Froggy Poker, signing out.